A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus and his followers went as far as Capernaum, and as soon as the Sabbath came, Jesus went into the synagogue and began to teach. And his teaching made a deep impression on them, because unlike the scribes, he taught them with authority. In their synagogue just then, there was a man possessed by an unclean spirit, and it shouted, "What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." But Jesus said sharply, "Be quiet, come out of him." And the unclean spirit threw the man into convulsions. With a loud cry, went out of him. The people were so astonished that they started asking each other what it all meant. "Here is a teaching that is new," they said, "and with authority behind it. He gives orders even to unclean spirits, and they obey him." And his reputation rapidly spread everywhere, through all the surrounding Galilean countryside. The Gospel of the Lord. I can think back to an incident a number of years ago when I was driving round a roundabout that was unfamiliar to me, and my passenger in the passenger seat was offering advice about which lanes I should be in so that I could exit the roundabout at the required junction. As I listened to his advice, it seemed wrong, but because he spoke with confidence and certainty, I followed his advice nevertheless. I ended up having a collision with another car that was also on the roundabout. Fortunately, no one was hurt, although I felt silly for listening to the confident voice of my passenger rather than trusting my own sense of the road. In the Gospel reading today, we hear that Jesus' teaching made a deep impression on the people because, unlike the scribes, he taught them with authority. What does it mean for Jesus or for anyone to speak with authority? As my story showed, a voice can sound authoritative and yet be wrong. As the Gospel reading continues, we see how Jesus shows his authority. He gives orders even to unclean spirits, and they obey him. The authoritative word of Jesus has the desired effect. The unclean spirits flee, and the people are astonished. Do we ever find ourselves having to speak with authority, whether in our families, in our workplaces, or even in our church community? How do we do this? It is much more than simply having a confident voice. Our words will ring hollow if they are not matched by our actions. If we're asking someone to do something difficult, then we must be prepared to do the same ourselves too. Being a disciple of Jesus is sometimes difficult, but we have not only the words of Jesus to teach us, but also the example of his life. The things that Jesus spoke about came to pass because of the authoritative nature of his word. Moreover, that word is handed on to his disciples so that they too can speak with his authority. When St. Peter healed the crippled man outside the temple, he said, "In the name of Jesus Christ, rise up and walk." And it is in the name of Jesus and with his authority that the church ministers today. There are many evil spirits in our world that need to be called out and destroyed. There are also many voices calling us to act in many different ways. Some of these voices will sound persuasive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they will be right. As Christians, we need to listen carefully for the authoritative voice of Jesus. It won't necessarily be the loudest voice, but deep down we will recognise it as being the most authoritative one. Once we recognise his voice, then we too can speak out and act in the name of Jesus Christ and do so with his authority.